How to help a client who has received a written notice. Checklist 1. Written notice. When a consumer defaults on their payments, one of the first things a credit provider may do is send a written notice, sometimes known as a letter of demand. Warn your client not to ignore the letter of demand. Advise your client to pay the amount owing if they can afford to. If they cannot pay, they should speak to the credit provider and arrange to pay the money in manageable installments. If they ignored a letter of demand, they are likely to receive a summons. If the client did receive a summons, check whether it's a correctly issued summons. A default judgment is only permissible if the summons was ignored. If they ignore a summons, a creditor can apply to the court for a default judgment to be given against your client. The creditor may not begin any legal proceedings until 10 working days have passed since delivery of the written notice, and your client has been in default for at least 20 working days. The creditor may also not begin any legal proceedings while your client is working with the debt counselor, consumer court, or an ombudsperson. If you believe your client should not have had a default judgment made against them, they should contact a lawyer. If your client cannot pay the debt following a default judgment, the court can issue a warrant of execution. This means some of your client's personal items of value can be attached by the sheriff of the court as a form of payment for the debt they owe. Inform your client of their rights and the correct procedures for this. A warrant for execution. The warrant can only be bought by the sheriff of the court. The sheriff can open any door on any premises, even if access is denied. When necessary, the sheriff may use force in order to fulfill his obligations. The first time they visit the client's home, the sheriff may only make a list of all the things your client owns. Your client must point out items that belong to someone else or are not fully paid for, as they are not allowed to take these away. The second time they visit the client's home, the sheriff can remove their possessions. They may not remove possessions belonging to anyone else or which are not fully paid for. They may not take items of a personal nature or that your client cannot live without, such as their food, bed, clothes. Let's look at a quick case study. Meet Mr. Mbuli. He bought a set of pots for 3,000 Rand from Kitchen Essentials. The agreement was that Mr. Mbuli would make monthly payments of 600 Rand, including 20% interest over 6 months. After 2 months of making the payments, Mr. Mbuli was retrenched as a security guard where he had been working. Mr. Mbuli was now unable to make the monthly payments for the pots. Although he still owed 2,000 Rand, he did not report his retrenchment to Kitchen Essentials. After failing to make his payment, Mr. Mbuli received a letter of demand from Nkosi Debt Collectors and a letter of summons that he ignored. After 1 month, Nkosi Debt Collectors came to Mr. Mbuli's house with a summons and removed goods from his property. They also took goods belonging to Mr. Mbuli's tenant. Mr. Mbuli decided to visit the Vuga Community Advice Office for assistance. After hearing Mr. Mbuli's story, Thuli, the paralegal, worked through Checklist 1, Written Notice, and Checklist 3, Court Orders from the Black Sash Paralegal Manual with Mr. Mbuli. Thuli explained that because he ignored the letters and summons, the court could, after an application from Nkosi Debt Collectors, issue a default judgment. Thuli, however, explains that the procedures taken by Nkosi Debt Collectors are incorrect. The sheriff of the court and not the debt collectors are supposed to visit Mr. Mbuli's home and implement the warrant. Thuli advised Mr. Mbuli to consult a lawyer. For detailed information on the written notice, please refer to the Paralegal Manual, Written Notice section.